2022, and I'm going to call this to order at about 5:04. I am the secretary of the school board because there's a couple other people absent, so I'm the one doing this. We have a couple of things on our agenda that we're going to talk about tonight, and the first one is policy 8.33, 3.29, and that's the RSD school calendar for 2022, 2023. And Ms. Pennington is here in case anybody has any questions.
I'll make a motion to accept policy A on the agenda, 8.33, 3.29, the RSD Russell calendar for the 2022-2023 school year.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, we received, I think, several emails on this calendar. Did we get all those issues resolved?
Yes, you'll go up there and answer them.
There was, I think the board received several emails related to the calendar. That's a weird spot.
It's a weird, roll this around or? Okay, now I can see your face. Okay.
And honestly, I mean, I try not to get too involved in some of the emails we received, so I don't know what the specifics were. But did they get resolved? I know there's some.
Yes, we did. We sent out an email that explained what the main concerns were from PPC and CPPC, and then what we did to address them. And we created two different versions that we tried to address as many of the concerns as possible within the two drafts. And then this is the one that they slightly modified that they thought fit their needs.
And they voted?
Yes, and
teachers
PPC
voted
and CPPC both approved this version.
Okay.
Other discussion? Mr. Barrett? I'm going to call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. White?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Jackmore?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Then we have other policies too that we're going to discuss, and it's on your sheet there, and it's policy B through H. And is there any?
Ms. Pennington
Ms. Pennington?
Did we talk through any of
Yes.
these for
Would
you?
you like to talk about that?
Okay, I can go through each one if you'd like. They're pretty short descriptions. For the salary schedule for the classified 8.1, the only change on there is the custodial maintenance foreman column. And on that one, we are proposing an hourly wage increase $1.50 up, which would take it to $17.35 an hour. This was brought to us from CPPC, who had done some research in their maintenance and custodial department from other foremans, trying to create that leadership position so that others will want to move into them whenever they're available. This is going to affect 2 people currently. You want me to keep going on the rest of the policies?
No, I'd like to take them one at a time.
Okay.
That's just me. I mean, if that's okay.
Yeah.
On me.
I know the statement affects 2 people only. That concerns me, even though it's trying to minimize it. I understand that, but when we make salary changes that only affect 2 people, you can take that a couple ways. So, I mean, it only affects 2 people today, but what about other people that see that increase? And I mean, that's anytime we single out something like that. I like looking at salaries as a district-wide, so I mean that concerns me a bit. And this is the classified is something that we did look at. So are these new positions?
No, these were not. Before this recommendation, they were at $15.85 an hour, and they were closer to the maintenance 2 than our current foreman column is close to maintenance two, but right now we don't have anyone in maintenance two, so it wasn't an issue. So in the future, we will have maintenance two in that column, because anybody who's been in that position for 15 years will be in maintenance two. So they wanted to see a bigger increase between a maintenance two and the actual supervisor of those, since there will be people in maintenance two.
Yeah.
So their actual departments brought this one to PPC. I will say these two foremen did not. They've been content, and they haven't never said a word to complain or anything. It's just been the workers. They thought they're exempt employees, and they wanted them to have a higher hourly wage to help reflect that.
So and just continuing with that, with that concern is, this is how we get salary schedules out of whack. Because what if next month, say, IT comes up and says, oh, we have a position we want to get. I mean, it just can grow on itself. I'm not opposed to raising salaries. I think you can go back and say that I don't think we're doing enough on salaries, and I don't think we can keep up.
Right.
And because of what's happening in the economic situation today, that's why I've been pushing for salaries. But
Yeah.
this singling someone out and just addressing one area instead of looking at all the salaries concerns me.
Okay.
I'm with Morgan a little bit on that. We're not, we're moving people around, they're getting cuts in pay, and I'm with him on that. If we just single out that one group right there, that doesn't look good to me. It just doesn't put a good taste in
Sure.
my mouth.
None of the classified staff should be losing any pay with the new salary schedule, even if they switch positions. We did check for the ones that might move. Even to what would be a lower position on here, it's still a higher pay than their current one. So just to make that clear on the classified salary schedule version. We did discuss in CPPC, this has been since April, I think, April or March they brought it, that in the future, as we look at the salary schedule, they can look at positions to see if they want to increase, but they all seem content with the ones we have, this version, except for that one department. And I think, they'll be content without it, but they felt very strongly that those foreman positions deserved more per hour. And they did show market research from other districts, because we did talk about how you can't just say they want it, or that it's needed. They did have some comparisons.
Yeah, I get it. I just wonder what's going to show up next month.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's
I
why I just
understand.
would like to look at salaries, district-wide, or at least department-wide, because you can chase comparisons,
Right.
especially right now,
Yep.
and the way salaries are increasing. I'd just like for us to slow down a little bit, take another, maybe different look at it.
Okay.
So I'm going to make a motion to table.
I'll second that motion.
Table which policy?
8.1.
B? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table policy 8.1, salary schedule.
So if we table this, and that pushes us beyond May 1st, so this wouldn't be on for this year's contract, this would then push this to a whole year.
23, 24. Yes.
And we just did this group, their salary raises.
Yeah,
right?
they're still getting the raise that was in here previously, the $15.85. So we're just postponing anything else until we do more of a district-wide analysis. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah.
look at salaries district-wide
Yeah.
and see what we can do. That's, at the last board meeting, that's why I specifically asked Justin about our reassessment that took place and the impact of that reassessment. And he said it had a $1.4 million increase. I'd like us to look at, I know we just looked at salaries, but I think we need to look again at both classified and certified salaries, district-wide, and not just single out individuals. That's just my opinion. That's where I'm at.
We're working on a presentation for the May 5th meeting, Justin and I.
Can we incorporate, and again, this is a discussion for me because I couldn't look at the links earlier and I couldn't see all the details, but I'd like to look at salaries district-wide and do not just for those two, but look
Mhm.
at everyone, and maybe,
Yep.
maybe they'll even get more. But I don't think we can keep up with salaries right now. I think if anything, we are, I can't remember how I worded it last time, but we may not be doing enough, or our biggest mistake may be not doing enough. Because we're gonna see salaries go up around us, and then we're gonna be chasing it, but I'd like to be ahead of the game.
Are those two employees going to be moving into this higher level position
No.
within this year?
No, they are currently the
Oh,
foreman.
they're currently
Yeah.
in it?
Mhm.
Okay, I see.
Okay, I think we have a motion to table B, and we had a motion by Mr. Barrett and second by Jackamore, and so now we'll have a vote. Mr. Barrett,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes,
Mr. Jackamore,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes.
And I just wanna make sure, because I don't want it to be interpreted as voting against raises. At most, I wanna table it to look at salaries district-wide,
That's what
see
I
what we can do. At least that was my intent, because
Okay, Ms. Pennington, can you talk to us about C?
Yes, for 8.13, the only changes in this policy were to update the information on page 2 regarding the Title IX coordinator to the HR office, and updated the email and phone number there, as well as the last page, we updated the website that we use for posting positions. This one had one we don't use anymore. And that is all on that one.
Why are we taking the Title IX away?
We're not taking it away, we're just moving it over to HR.
Under you?
Mhm. That way, if it is an employee issue already, it would already be under HR as well.
what if it's not an employee issue?
We're looking into that right now. Dr. Turner's been teaching me how this goes, but we're looking into possibly using a lawyer service for those student ones that become more complex. But right now, it would all go under HR, according on what we were thinking.
Why are we changing when we don't really know the direction we're going with this? I mean, that's what I have whereas it's like we're trying to move too fast on little single items until we have a full game plan. And it's been working fine, and until we get, a set plan where we're headed, why are we making these little individual changes, is my concern.
what are other schools, is there Title IX director under the HR also?
It just really depends on the
Varies.
district. Some are under HR, some are under assistant superintendent, some are under special services. Some have one job that has all those different kind of hats for it.
Can you, and I'm gonna show my ignorance here, but I don't care. Can someone tell me like a Title IX employee issue?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
An example of a Title IX employee issue.
If we have discrimination with gender or sex, or we have an employee who feels they've been treated differently because they're the female, or we think we have sexual harassment between a male and a female adult.
And that's Title IX.
Mhm.
Or, there's other things that address it besides Title IX, right?
I don't understand what you're asking me. There's other things Title IX addresses, or,
Well, as far as employees, I mean, Title IX addresses, all the employees issue discrimination issues don't fall under Title IX.
no.
There's other things that address employee discrimination and racism and all the other issues that we're saying this falls under, but Title IX specifically was written for students, right? I mean, do I have a complete misunderstanding? It
No.
was to make sure that
Yeah, you're
we were
right.
providing the right facilities.
Mhm.
I mean, Title IX wasn't for, there's all kinds of other laws that pertain to employees and address
Employees.
the same issues that we're saying fall under Title IX. Or am I wrong?
No, there are other laws that protect adults from discrimination or toxic environments. um,
And,
besides Title IX.
and this would fall, moving this would fall under Judy, right?
Fall under the Human Resources Department.
Yeah, for now.
Judy.
She's in Human Resources now, yes.
So where is this position sitting right now?
With Dr. Turner, Special Services, or Support Services.
And I'm all for taking some burden off of her, but can, moving it to you, I mean, it's just,
I mean, you got a lot going on too.
I mean, are you,
I mean,
you okay with that? And are you comfortable with moving that? I guess you would, or you wouldn't have brought it to us, but.
Well, I think the processes will allow a little bit, to be a little bit more seamlessly so that we have it housed in one area was the thinking. So, it's kind of the direction that I thought may provide quick response and, be able to do an investigation.
This will be an area in all likelihood, probably you'll be getting some more training in and updated knowledge.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes,
Probably pretty much ongoing.
yes, absolutely.
It just goes back, I think we need to hold off on that right there until we get the training in place and get the direction we're going before we start putting more on you to do. Because Dr. Turner's been doing it for a long time, seems like she's doing a good job. I just don't think we need to change that right now when we don't really have someone in that position that's been trained and also put more on your plate.
Okay. So you can, for this policy, you can modify you can accept it, reject it, or you could change it if you want to modify that one change but leave the last page changes about the website that we use for employment.
Yeah.
Just so you know, that's an option.
So do we have a motion on C?
I'll make a motion to delete the inquiries on non-discrimination, maybe directed to HR offices who reached at that new phone number, and Judy Pennington was going to strike that and approve the rest.
Do we need to add the Dr. Turner's office though instead?
Well,
In
we're
its
gonna leave
place?
it- We're
Yeah.
gonna leave it like it is.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's on
We're
there.
striking the changes.
gotcha.
Strike changes, okay.
And I'd like to, I'd like to discuss it, maybe not more tonight, but I would like to, like we talked about, have some sort of policy meeting or, because I'd like to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
I know, this is my fault because I couldn't see all this in detail till tonight, so I'm kind of trying to play catch up. But I'd really like to discuss this some more.
Is this a policy that has a deadline?
A deadline?
Yeah, I mean,
No.
some of these we need
fine.
to approve in order to
Well,
meet
this
the
one,
May 1 deadline, but
all of these, our personnel policies have to be approved before May 1 to go
Okay.
into effect next school year. So if you modify it, it's okay. That's just the version that would go into effect next school year. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I know we're in a kind of time crunch, but I'm not using that as
Sure.
a rush to make changes to a policy that I'm not familiar with and I haven't heard from a lot of views, because that, like for a better term, that's our Bible, and that is what we always refer back to is, well, that's what policy says.
Right.
So, and I got this morning early, and that's why I was asking for it earlier, because I wanted time to go through it. And I'm with Morgan. I think we need to have like a little workshop or whatever you want to call it in order to go through these, so we know we're making the proper decisions on policy, because it's very, very important to me.
So what's the motion?
To modify the,
I think you said strike the changes, is that
Strike
correct?
the-
except for the website.
Yeah, just one that says inquiries.
On page 2.
On page 2, halfway through, middle page.
Page 2, okay. Do, historically, how many complaints have we received, Title IX complaints?
I don't know that one.
Both? Six. Staff? Staff? Huh. Okay, I'll second that. Or is there a second already?
No,
All right.
I don't think so. Okay, then we'll call for, Noel, is there any more discussion? And I'll call for a vote. Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. White?
No.
Ms. Hall?
No.
Mr. Jackmore?
Yes.
And I'm also a no. So, I'm not sure about that. How does that, would we have 3-2?
So now we can make a motion to either accept it or reject it as is, or modify it with a different modification.
Is there another motion?
I make a motion, we accept the recommendation as listed.
And I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we just heard that there was 6 this last year that involved students, and none of them involved personnel. So why would we want to move it to HR? I guess that's a question for you.
I wanted to move it to HR to allow her the opportunity to run and tighten up the special education program and the 504 program, and she's working on the social emotional learning. So she has 3 pretty big areas that she's working on. I felt that Judy could provide a quick response in HR, and we would be able to support the needs of the students quicker than what we might be able to with the current setting. That was my rationale.
It just seems to me something that involves students, putting it in HR, which focuses on personnel. I just don't follow that. And that's why, I'd rather have these discussions in a meeting to educate myself as opposed to having them in this setting. But I'm not following it, and I'd probably in a different meeting have a lot more questions, but that doesn't make sense to me. And just seems like I don't know what else we're gonna get into, but this seems like a lot of last minute changes to me, that's put on a timeline in front of the board that I didn't create.
Well, no, we were given these like a month ago. Like, these are the same policies from last month, right?
That's correct.
That
Okay.
were pulled from the agenda.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have discussion on it.
Right.
And now we're doing the same thing that we did last month. That's the problem I have with it. We need to review it in a work session, just like I said, so we can get more roundtable discussion on it. And that's why this last minute, because we're in a time crunch, is not the board's fault. And I'm just not gonna be for 'em unless it's overwhelming evidence that would need to be changed.
What's it take, we got a point of order, what's it take for quorum?
Are you asking me?
Whoever wants to answer.
I don't know.
Majority. We needed 5 here.
Are you answering that, Melissa?
Right.
Well, a quorum of the board members would be,
4. Right?
yes.
I think I'm gonna go. I mean, if we're gonna pass stuff without much discussion,
follow suit, because there's this, I mean, if this one is gonna be tight, then these other ones are gonna be the same thing when you're start talking about, the more important jobs out there. We're changing it when we don't have, I don't have enough information for me to put my name behind a policy change. Because we're the ones gonna have to answer for it on a policy, and that's why I have a problem with it, and I tried to get it last night, and, it was just hard to get, and I work during the day, work 10, 12-hour days, and, I do a lot of my research at night, and I didn't get this until mid-morning, and no fault to anybody, that's just the way it is. And I really couldn't review it like I wanted to, and, I'm just not gonna be pressured by a deadline of May 1st for a serious policy change.
These are the same ones from April 12th.
But we never discussed them openly,
understand.
and that's I mean, there's a lot of roundtable discussion, and that's why I didn't want to pull it, I just
Sure.
told them I
Sure.
wasn't comfortable with voting on policy without going over them as a committee, a review committee or something, so you can ask questions openly and have some roundtable discussion about it. And, if we can't get 8.13, then these other ones, we're revoking, and I don't know what's gonna be in replace of it. I mean, there's a lot of questions that I'm gonna have.
Well, I'm just not prepared to vote,
I understand.
really, one way or another, so.
Yeah,
I just don't wanna participate until I am educated on
Sure.
it, so I
Sure.
just.
We have to have a school calendar. Is that approved, so we're good?
Yeah, we did the school calendar.
Okay.
We did the school calendar
School
first.
calendar's fine.
So my question is, and back to what Mr. Jackmore said, that's what we usually do is, we have a lunch meeting and we
Exactly.
discuss them. And because of time crunch, so we had the transportation meeting and we didn't get to discuss policy, because Van Horn was there and they were talking about that when we usually, and that's why we pulled them because we hadn't,
Right.
had to pull them. But, right now we're discussing with Judy, this is basically the same setup that we would have for open discussion. For if people didn't get to come to the committee meeting when we usually do this, I mean, it could have just been us right here. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I like having those luncheon committee meetings when we discuss them, but that's what we're doing right now, is discussing these policies.
But we're missing some people.
But if we were having a luncheon committee meeting, we could have been missing those same people too.
If you don't have enough, you can reschedule it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can work around anything. I mean, but when we've got 3 members missing, and we're talking about some serious policy changes, I just have a problem with, striking some of these and revoking them when I don't have the information. I mean, I'll sit and listen, but I'm just not, I just don't want to move forward, and my one vote is gonna be canceled, it could be easily canceled.
Mhm.
And I just don't think that's appropriate this time. It's just that's my views on it.
Well, do we want to take this time, since we're here, for Judy to go over the rest of the policy, so we've got time to think about it?
I mean, they're on the agenda to vote for.
But we can table them.
I mean, we wanna table it, and then I'm not against them, I'm just against them right now. Because I don't have enough information, just like Mark said, to really honestly vote my opinion on it when I haven't heard from more people.
Yep, I had an opportunity to visit with administration today, so I have the information that I need.
And I asked
To vote,
questions when we
and,
had these last time.
So, I mean,
To follow
that's
up.
why I feel comfortable
Yeah.
to vote on their recommendation.
Yeah, I've had over a month to look at these and send Dr. McDonald and Judy and Dr. Turner, questions and figure out what was what and why we were revoking and revising. So that's just where I am,
Would you like Judy just to talk about the other policies?
Well, Well, I have a question. Were any of these like really vital and needed, other than the calendar? I know we had to do the calendar, but the rest of these policies, others, like, so the one we just talked about changing, where it had misinformation,
Right.
like with the website for hiring, we don't
Right.
want to put that in our policy and have it be wrong, because then it goes back to like, well, if you're not following this policy,
Right.
and it's written in there. So,
The two 8.11 and the 8.13 that were to be revoked are policies that will be contradicted with policies next year. So like in this one that has the time requirements in the salary schedule that have been passed previously, it already has time requirements and days per year, and they don't match these positions. So the new salary schedule would trump this one, so this one's just not needed anymore. And the same thing with this contract return. Someone actually caught that we have two policies on contract return for classified, and one says you only get 10 days and one says you get 30 days. So the 30-day one is the more accurate, up-to-date one. So this one's just also already on a policy that's contradicted by another policy that's up. So those two would just be nice to revoke because they will be confusing to
Clarify.
people.
Mhm.
They will have two policies that contradict each other if we leave those. The other one was just combining two processes into one so that people knew how to move up on the salary schedule. We have already started using an up-to-date process using our e-forms and our electronic process. So this just tried to combine it to make it more accurate, and it did move up from September 1 to August 1 to return your transcripts so that payroll can have 12 even payments throughout the year.
and I had concerns
And you
about that
caught with
one that
that.
I
Mhm.
asked you over a month and a half ago.
Yep, and then if people have any questions or they have a transcript they can't get in the summer, they just need to let us know and we'll work with them
Yeah.
to make sure. It's a little faster now that it's electronic too.
So this is just, I totally understand, and I totally get that, and I like doing it the way Mr. Jackmore said, where we have more time to do this, but we have had a month and a half to look at this. I asked my question, I asked a lot of questions. I just hate putting this off for another year, especially if we've got policy that's contradictory, because that creates, confusion, and that it creates a sense of we don't know what we're doing if you've got contradictory policies. And that's where my concern is, because I want to be as accurate and as fair as we possibly can. So,
I did forget the job description ones that are in policy are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8, and it looks more like supervisory roles that are in policy. We are not sure why only those were in policy and not all the other classified job descriptions. So we shared all the job descriptions that we had currently written with supervisors, and they could modify, change into our new template. So these CPPC waited until we had new job descriptions before they would revoke the old ones. So like kind of what Mr. Jackmore was saying, he didn't want to revoke something until there was something to replace it with. Both PPC and CPPC agreed with that. So they only revoked theirs once we had other ones in place. So
I see.
yeah, so we
So-
do have other.
So they've already approved theirs, and it's already in the policy? It's
Yes,
like- yeah.
yes. There's not the actual descriptions in the policy. It's that one sheet that says this will stay updated,
Mhm.
and any changes we make to job descriptions will go to PPC and CPPC each month so that they're aware of anything.
Gotcha.
I still stand, we need, I just want a meeting. So I don't know how we need to move forward with it, but,
I just hate to see us put it off for another year.
I mean, I'm not worried about the May 1st date. I'm not worried about that. We should have, I mean, instead of having that, building meeting, I mean, we could have, this trumps that by far in my book.
These have to meet after 5 o'clock.
Well, I mean,
But we
Usually
could have had a
don't mail.
discussion, like a luncheon discussion, like what yeah.
just a
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a round table discussion. I don't know what the laws on that is, but we can do it after 5. I mean, we've done it, we've had it before, and it was very helpful to me when you're changing policies to really get a round table discussion with more than what we have right now.
Mhm.
And policy is big to me, very, very important.
Well,
Before
we
I
can't
change it,
go back in time. I wish we could have done that. So we have to make a decision. We're either gonna go forward and try to correct what we can correct before May 1st, or we're gonna have to table it, and then we're gonna have to live with misinformation for a whole year until we get a chance to revisit this. That's just where my concern is. That's, unless you guys see another option, that's the two kind of pathways I kind of see before us.
I think these policies were supposed to be addressed at our last board meeting. They were pulled by the board. So that probably shouldn't have happened. We
And
probably
I-
should have had that as a conversation at that
And
time.
I told them, I mentioned that, that's why I said, because I want to discuss it more. I mean, I didn't even get this agenda, that's right here. I just got these sheets that I printed off to look at, because I'm a paper guy. I like to see it, and I like to see it, make notes, and it's just, I think we're moving too fast, and I don't feel comfortable with what we're doing right now. I think we need to pull back, let Dr. McDonald get a direction that we're all headed in one time, and let's make the changes. And I'm all open. If it's unnecessary, I'm all for it. Or if it's Dr. McDonald's, I mean, if they can sell me on their idea, then I'm fine with that. I mean, but just policy is just not, it's not, I don't know. I mean, I moved it.
I think, okay, the best I remember, we had on C, policy 8.13, we had a motion by Mr. White and a second by Ms. Hall. And I can call for a vote, is that correct? Or is that what I should do?
Well, you got a
Motion
Motion
and
and second.
second.
You gotta
Okay.
go
And
for
this is
vote.
new for me, so y'all correct me if I'm wrong on something. Mr. Barrett's absent. Mr. White.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Jackmore.
no.
And I am a yes. Now, what does that mean when we have 3 yes and 1 no?
Still carries.
It carries.
Yeah, because if a quorum is a simple majority, we have a
Okay.
quorum.
Okay, so then we go to D, which is to revoke policy 8.111R, classified positions, time requirements. Can you speak to that, Ms. Pennington?
Yes, this is the one, when we adopted the actual 8.1 salary schedule back in February. This one, at the bottom of it, it has all the contract days and hours per day on this one. So some of these, like we don't even have the cafeteria managers and cafeteria worker positions anymore in our district that are on 8.11R. And some of the other ones went to 7.5 hours that are on here as 7 hours. We also have everyone who's, oh no, it says 8.5. So those are the main changes, are the 7-hour clerks and secretaries went to 7.5 hours. And then the 248 or 240 on some, and the days per year are already listed on this salary schedule that was adopted in January 11th. So we just didn't want to have 2 different documents that had the same positions with different hours per day and days per year.
Well,
So you-
I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry.
this is
go
a
ahead.
question I have. You say it's off the schedule right here.
Mhm.
Why isn't it presented like this right here, like we've done the rest? That is what's changed and what's not changed. With the, I mean, it's just real confusing to me.
What's
we-
changed and
we
what's
have a
not changed on this one?
We have a policy like this right here that's
Mhm.
written out just like this right here.
Yes.
But we're striking it and going with this right here.
Yes, on the other salary schedule we had currently, it kind of hid the hours per day, so you couldn't see that. So I guess that's why they typed out this one, so that it was more clear for people.
Well, that's what we want. We want it more clear to people and clear to me.
Okay?
And this is where I'm going, and I got a problem, because we're gonna vote on this, and I'm one vote. I'm always one vote, but I think we're rushing into this, and I don't wanna walk out, but I think, I'm just gonna make a motion to, from C down that we table C, D, E, F, G, and H. Until further discussion.
Since there's not a second, then that motion would fail. And is there any other motions?
I'll make a motion from C down that we accept the recommendation of the administration.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. White, second by Ms. Hall. Mr. White?
Yes.
I think we need some discussion on that.
Oh, yes, discussion, sorry, I need to, yes, go ahead.
I just want to be on record that I do not agree with what we're doing right now. It's not right. We hadn't had time, I mean, I know y'all may have, but the majority of this board is either not here, not majority, but most of us are not here, and we hadn't had time to look at it. I could have been, just like Morgan, I could have walked out and this meeting would have been over. So I just wanted you to know that's not right, and I do not agree with what we're doing right now. But the motion's on the floor. And a second.
Is there any other discussion? Mr. White?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that motion will carry. If there's not anything else, then this meeting is adjourned at 5:45.